Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
Don't forget to check your mobile. So the mobile result is going to be different. Unfortunately, what I've done here, very foolishly, is made an animation. And because I've just exported it as PDF, of course, it doesn't work. But the mobile version is often different to the desktop version. It will have more information on it. It will have a longer brand SERP. It will have more rich elements, which are videos, images. It used to be podcasts, not anymore, your books. The people also search for, which are these people at the bottom. I've got Cindy Crum, Rand Fishkin, and Joost de Valk, the famous Joost de Valk who created Yoast WordPress plugin. So check your mobile and check the desktop, both incognito, both if you can with just location changer or a VPN. Also check the AI assistive engines. This is the Kalicube Pro platform. We track all of these for multiple queries. And this is a really important point. Do not sign into them because it will give you an incredibly personalized result. So if you search for somebody if you search for yourself, it will already know all about you. So it will tell you all about you and you'll think everything is good. But in fact, if anybody else searches for you, it probably isn't very good. The thing that you have with the personalization, the level of personalization that ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini will do is that it will use the information that you've given it during your sessions with it to tell you about yourself. And that's cheating, because if your prospect, your client, your investor, your potential hire searches your name, they're not going to see the same thing. Then also check multiple questions. You can see here about, who is, professions, author, podcast, webinar, interview. I've even done wiki there, awards, news, articles, professions. Those are just examples. They're the way that we find data using Kalicube Pro. But it's really important to remember that AI is moving us to a world of due diligence. And that due diligence is a rabbit hole. Because when you ask an AI a question, it suggests follow-up questions. So if somebody asks about you or your company, the AI will suggest the follow-up questions, and you need to make sure that all of that looks absolutely amazing. And luckily, as we'll see, knowledge panels help with that. So who can have a knowledge panel? Absolutely anybody. Literally anybody. There are people working at my company who have only 3 social media profiles. They have a knowledge panel. This is one of our clients, Jonathan Cronstead, who worked with Kajabi, who built it up to be a multi-billion-dollar company. We got him a knowledge panel. And here is another client of ours, Scott Duffy. And you think, oh, but there's no knowledge panel. What? Kalicube haven't done their job. But in fact, we have. Because sometimes you will search for somebody's name. In fact, a lot of the time you'll search somebody's name or a company name, the knowledge panel doesn't appear, but that doesn't mean to say the knowledge panel doesn't exist. His knowledge panel is absolutely wonderful and delightful and fancy, but he competes with another Scott Duffy who is more famous than him. So Google can't decide who the person is searching for, so it doesn't show anything. Unless you use the KGM ID, which is that number at the top there, that you can see, which is the unique identifier in the knowledge graph. That is the reference that Google uses for your entity, for you or your company, and uses it to trigger this knowledge panel. So, onwards. Also, obviously, I've been showing you people, and I'm going to focus on people today because that's what we mainly do at Kalicube. We optimize people's knowledge panels rather than corporate knowledge panels, but you can get a corporate knowledge panel. That's a typical corporate knowledge panel with our friends from WordLift. If you have an e-commerce site, I do suggest that you look up WordLift and get in contact with them because they've got an amazing software and system.
Jason, do you want to hold on to questions for later, or do you want me to ask some questions as we're going along?
I think it'd be best if we get through the whole thing.
Okay.
And then answer the question so that it's kind of, this part at least is structured.
Okay.
Also products. So we've got people, we've got companies, we've got products, we've got music groups, we've got music albums, you've got films. anything can have a knowledge panel, even a topic. So here's my step-by-step framework for building and improving a knowledge panel. I'm using a personal example, but it works for companies, products, music groups, any entity. So the single most important thing is you need to choose yourself an entity home. If you're a little bit geeky, you can call that the canonical URL, but it basically means where your entity lives online. All of the algorithms, AI, Google, Bing, are looking for a reference point, a reference source of information from you about you as a person or as a company or as a product. And you should make that entity home a web page on your website that you own. And it should be the about page and not the home page, because the home page is to welcome visitors and to sell to them and to present your company to people who you expect to convert. The about page is an opportunity for you to be more factual and helpful to the AI and to Google about who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and indeed why you're credible. And it's better to put that on the about page than on the home page. Next, you need to choose the photos or the images that you want Google to show in the knowledge panel, and you need to choose a subtitle. Here, Scott Duffy has chosen entrepreneur. And you also need to be sure to put in the variants of the name you've used online. That's called alternate name in schema markup, as we'll see in a moment. Because if you've used different names over time or across different platforms, you need to put them in. For example, I use Jason Barnard, Jason M. Barnard, the Brand SERP Guy. All of those are my pseudonyms, different names for myself. For Kalicube, it would be Kalicube, then Kalicube SAS, because that's the official type of company we are, a SaaS. And make sure that that's in there, because Google needs to disambiguate or clearly understand that these things all refer to you, whether it's written Kalicube or Kalicube SAS. Next, this is quite daunting, but you need to spend some time establishing and structuring all the important facts and claims. So it seems simple, but you need to identify what you're talking about, all of the facts about it, the company's founding date, the company's founding place, the founders, the employees, the date of founding. And for a person, obviously, date of birth, place of birth, who your brothers and sisters are, if they're well known to Google, your degree, your qualifications, so on and so forth. And then you need to frame those facts to your advantage. And I've written there claim frame. You need to make claims, you need to frame them to your advantage. And that's super important because you need to be consistent. Next, you need to write a description. So you've got all those facts, you've framed them in a way that makes sense to you. You need to write a description that the AI will understand. And on the Kalicube platform, for example, we analyze the descriptions for our clients using Google's NLP. And as you can see at the bottom there, it pulls out what entities it's identified. In this case, Scott Duffy, entrepreneur, AI Mavericks, keynote speaker. And it's really important that here, for example, it said this text is 82% about Scott Duffy and 3% about entrepreneur and 2% about AI Mavericks. That's a good balance. It's about a person who is an entrepreneur and his company is called AI Mavericks. That is perfect. And if the AI can understand the text, it becomes significantly easier to get a knowledge panel. Next, you need to find all of the profiles, the bios, every page that talks about the entity and update it. So every piece of corroboration that's out there, you need to update it with the new description, the photos, the images, the subtitle. In this case, he's got 67 that we consider to be important. Our algorithms have have evaluated to be important resources for Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and particularly for the knowledge panel. And when you update them, make sure you link back either to the entity home, the about page, or to the website homepage. It doesn't matter which one you link back to, because Google understands that the about page is the entity home, where you describe the entity factually, and the home page is a pseudo entity home. So you don't need the home page to be an entity home. Most people think, oh, I need to put the entity home on the home page because it's the strongest page with links. Links don't matter, despite the fact I've just told you to link back. We're not looking for link juice. We're looking for clear signals that the bot can follow when it's crawling the web. And when you do that, you've created a loop, an infinite loop of self-corroboration. So the bot goes to the entity home, it reads the information, it goes out to the resource, it comes back to the website, to the entity home or the homepage, hits the entity homepage again, goes out to a new corroboration source, sees the same information, comes back, sees the same information, goes out, sees the same information. And that repetition is what will get you the knowledge panel. So on that entity home, it's really important to put the text, the description, the subtitle, the photos, all the important facts, the links to the most important corroboration visible on your entity home. A lot of people talk about schema, and we'll come to that in a moment, but it is incredibly important that the information is visible to users on your entity home. And the page doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be completely human-friendly, unfriendly. It can be human-friendly and bot-friendly at the same time. And Scott's done a great job of that. And this is the geeky part, the schema markup. You need to create the schema markup that reiterates all of the information that you've put visible to the user on the entity home, plus additional things like the birth date that you wouldn't put in the visible to the user. The identifiers, the same as links, as we'll see in a moment. And it's really important with the schema markup that it's an about page with a main entity that is the entity that you're talking about. So in this case, Scott Duffy, the person, or perhaps Kalicube, the corporation. So the schema markup is a web page, in this case specifically an about page. It has a main entity, and that main entity that the web page is talking about is a person, a corporation, a product, or a music group, or a music album. And importantly, you should only talk about one thing, one person, one corporation, one product on that page. Obviously, you can mention others, like, for example, for Scott, we mentioned AI Mavericks, his company. You can mention things that are incredibly relevant, but the topic of the page must very clearly at least be 90% about the person or the corporation or whatever entity you're optimizing for. So here I've given you the basics of the schema markup: about page, main entity, personal corporation. And importantly, this is somewhere that people get it wrong. The name underneath the page there is entity home Scott Duffy. That's the name of the page, and the name of the entity at the bottom there, named Scott Duffy, within the main entity block, is the name of the person. Two very different things. And we generally put the name of the page to be about Scott Duffy, entity home Scott Duffy, so that we can easily identify, and the Google can identify that this is the name of the page and not the person. And then that @ID underneath is incredibly important. It's the identifier for your person, your company, your product, whatever you're optimizing the knowledge panel for. And it's what Google and all the AI use as the reference. So every time you use that reference, that @ID, in this case, scottduffy.com/mystory/hashtag/schema/person/ and then any number you want, or it could just be person hashtag. Person, that would be fine. It knows that you're talking about that person, and it knows where to go to look for the information about the person or the corporation or the product. I use that format, or we use that format at Kalicube, because it's the format that Yoast uses. And so we've copied Yoast, which is the highest form of compliment you can give anybody or any company. But it's in fact because Yoast is on 15% of all websites in the world. And so we copied their system because the machines are used to seeing it. They understand it. They see it very often. And that's a key to getting machines to understand you for generative engine optimization in general, and knowledge panels in particular, is if you're using the most common thing that these machines see day in, day out, very frequently. 15% of the web is Yoast schema markup, and 30% of the web is WordPress. Those are easy wins for you. The more common something is, the more likely the machines are to have already understood the system behind it, and then you can leverage the system to your advantage. Check the schema markup for validity on the schema.org website. Don't use the Google one, or don't take the Google one too seriously. The Google one is designed for rich elements, rich snippets in the SERP. So it's designed for the presentation within Google's results, whereas the schema.org one is designed to tell you, is it valid? Is it readable? Is it machine understandable or not? And that goes for Google, Bing, and AI. You also need to be really careful and very vigilant to include all of the same as, the 67 URLs that we found there that represent the entity and that corroborate the information about the entity. You add those to the schema markup. Make sure that they are accurate. If they are not accurate and you can't update them, you do not add them to the same as. You don't want to send the machines to something that is contradicting or confusing compared to what you've given them on your entity home. And if you want something pretty to see if it looks good, use the Classy Schema site, which I love. And they've got that delightful thing. You can see the elements that all hook together. You can see that in the middle there, it's an about page, and it's about a person, Scott Duffy, who has a property value, KGM ID, and so on and so forth. So it's a really easy way for you to see and visualize whether or not the schema makes sense. If you want to have some help with a company Google Knowledge Panel, go to Search Engine Land. I've written a lot of articles, and this is just one of them, specifically about Google Knowledge Panels. And there's a download for your instruction manual for Google Knowledge Panels, and you go to that URL at the bottom of the page. Take a screenshot right now if you want to go there after this webinar. Download the guide. It works for anything. It works for anybody. Go ahead. It's free. You just have to give your email in exchange. And the bonus with a knowledge panel, you're ready for AI. Get this. Your AI resume, which is the equivalent of a brand SERP. So you've got the search engine results page for your brand name, your personal name, your corporate name. And this is your AI resume. It's what the AI thinks about you. How much does it know, and how much is it willing to blow your trumpet and shout your glory? If you get a knowledge panel on Google, all of the AI will give you a clear and accurate AI resume, and they'll do a lot of the bofu selling for you. When people search your name and they ask AI about you, they're ready to buy, or they're ready to convert in whatever way you need them to convert. And that description is very clearly that Kalicube, in this case, offers brand SERP optimization, knowledge panel management, generative engine optimization, online reputation management. In essence, Kalicube is the world leader in digital brand intelligence, helping individuals and companies become the definitive and verified authority in their niche in the AI era. We wrote that, and we convinced the machine to say exactly what we wrote. And check them all. And check multiple queries. Once again, that rabbit hole, that due diligence rabbit hole in AI is hugely important. It's going to be more and more important. And it takes a lot of work to master all of the questions that come up in AI as the AI suggests a continuation of the conversation when somebody's asked them about you. And then a double bonus, a knowledge panel demonstrates that your brand is algorithmically solid. And luckily, brand is the single most important thing in generative engine optimization, luckily for me. I've got lost here. Where was I? Oh, here we go.
34, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So brand is critical. I mean, I asked AI mode, and what role does brand play in generative engine optimization? Keep it short, and it couldn't. It keeps talking and talking and talking. It's foundational critical, as you can see, authority signal, trust and reliability, visibility, entity recognition. ChatGPT agrees, build your GEO house with a solid foundation, and your brand is the solid foundation. So John, you asked for some common issues and questions. All of these are not true. You do not need to be famous. You don't need Wikipedia, Wikidata. Knowledge panels are not the same in every location. Your company knowledge panels are not easy to get right now. So if you're trying to get a company knowledge panel, don't despair that you don't get one, because Google isn't triggering very many of them at the moment. It's focusing on people. So do the work anyway. You might get a knowledge panel, but even if you don't get a knowledge panel, you've got an amazing AI resume, and you're going to have Google and the AI, now it's disappeared, selling you. There you go, it's back. No, it doesn't matter. Selling your company in those bottom of funnel moments. It's not set it and forget it. Your market changes, you change, the algorithms change. You need to make sure that you're maintaining over time that consistency. You need consistency of the message over space across the web and over time. And if you don't get the over time, it's going to fall apart. Generally speaking, for a person, it takes 6 months to get a knowledge panel to grow and trigger when somebody searches your name. For a company, it can take 6 months to a year. But right now, it isn't even guaranteed in a year. But as I said, keep working at it, and your brand will be the foundation of your AI strategy, which is brilliant. More is better. More platforms that you're on is not better. More quality is better. So don't go for volume, go for quality. If you have 150 profiles and then you change your brand message, you have to go and update 150 profiles. It's a huge pain, and it's very difficult, and it's likely to break your knowledge panel. So stick to the really important profiles, the really important biographies, the really important sites that matter in your industry. It's incredibly niche. So the Wikipedia Wikidata debate for me is a non-debate. You don't need them. I would argue you don't want them. What you want is incredibly focused, relevant to your industry, the resources that matter in your industry. Duplicate content is bad. In this case, no, it's not. Repetition is brilliant for these machines. To get a knowledge panel, repetition is super important. You can repeat that entity description everywhere, and they will all count. Or you can adapt it slightly if you really want to. If your audience requires a slightly different approach, for example, Twitter needs a different approach to LinkedIn, needs a different approach to Crunchbase, you can adapt. But actually copy pasting in every single location still works. And it works because it's repetition that reassures and reinforces the learning of the machine. And if you think about the machine as a child that you're teaching, it's reinforcement learning of a child that just wants to understand. I need national press coverage? Absolutely not. Local press coverage for a local company is absolutely fine, as long as it's relevant. Then free tools. So I'm actually going to give you some stuff so you can do it yourself. Number one, we've got the knowledge graph sensor on Kalicube Pro. And this is what I was finding interesting, is that I didn't realize we've got this many tools that we offer. I built this years ago. And when you see a purple line or a big movement in the red line, it means there's been an update in the knowledge graph. If your knowledge panel has changed or dropped or disappeared or suddenly appeared, that might be a place you would want to look to see whether or not it's something within the algorithm that's been updated. It's like the Google updates, except it's the Google knowledge graph. And whenever I see an update, I always go and double check all of our clients to see what's happened, because this is the moment when your knowledge panel is going to change, or it's most likely to change. We have an API Explorer where you can look in the knowledge graph. You type in a name and it shows you what it's got in the knowledge graph. There's Scott Duffy. You have the NLP analysis that we do for our clients. We actually give it away for free here on the website. If you take screenshots of this, I'll share the slides as well after the event, so you can go and download them, and John will send them to you. And you can analyze the text to understand what Google understands, what AI understands from your text. And here, for example, that text, it understands that we're talking about Kalicube, who serve businesses with reputation, which is pretty good. Then we've got a schema markup generator for a company, an organization, local business. There's another one for people. It's quite simple, but you don't need to worry if you're not geeky. Use the free tool to generate the basic schema markup and add everything else in the HTML in the page. That will do fine. The minimum schema markup is what we offer on the website. Use that. It's absolutely enough, as long as you're clear about the rest of the information in the web page itself, and you write using that to be sure that the machine has correctly understood what it is you're talking about. Next, trusted sources. Take a screenshot of that. Those are the most trusted sources. Wikipedia is still top, but that doesn't mean to say you need Wikipedia, because there are a lot of other sites underneath. And as you can see, 2,133 sites in that list that Google trusts for information about corporations and people. And that's it. I'm Mr. Knowledge Panel, according to John Mueller from Google, and I hope that was helpful and not too confusing.
Yeah, and I think I've got a couple questions. People can put questions in the chat, and if anyone wants to volunteer for feedback from Jason, since we talked about that, we can see if anyone wants to do that. I volunteered myself as a guinea pig as well, so we could do that. I actually have another person whose name pops up when you Google my name. So it's one of those kind of unique situations. You mentioned Scott Duffy also has that. But I was going to ask a couple different questions. So you mentioned about the places where your bio lives. I forgot exactly how you phrased it. You said Scott has 67 places where your bio lives.
Yeah.
How do you figure that out, the places where your bio lives? You just Google your name and figure out what websites pop up where you've
Yeah.
placed your bio over the years? Okay. Because I saw like YouTube and there are different places that you're.
Yeah, I mean, it's typically going to be LinkedIn, Crunchbase, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok less so. Your own company website, your own website as a person. So if you're a person you want a knowledge panel, I strongly advise you to build your own website. A two-pager, homepage, about page. About page is the entity home, and then update. One of your bios would then be your bio on your company webpage, on your company website.
Okay. So
If you just search your name and look at the results that come up in the first 100, just go through and optimize those.
So some specific questions. What if you have an old bio on a website and you can't update it? You can't access that, or someone else put it there. What do you recommend to people?
If you really can't change it, just don't link to it.
Okay.
Pretend it doesn't exist. And just try to make sure that nothing links to it as far as you possibly can.
Okay.
And then beg.
And then beg. And is there a certain number you mentioned that quality over quantity, as far as profiles go, is there a certain number of profiles that you think that's the right number? Is 67 too many? Is 10 too few?
Well, a representative of Bing told me 30 is the ballpark number.
Okay.
Somebody else in the industry, Dawn Anderson, told me that somebody at Google told her the same number.
Okay.
So 30 is the ballpark number. But if you're out there and doing a lot of promotion and using your personal brand or indeed your corporate brand a lot, you're going to end up with more than that anyway.
Okay.
But if you don't have 30, you don't need 30. So it could be 15 super relevant references. And it could be one if it was Wikipedia. Wikipedia will just pop your knowledge panel right off.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid it depends. But if you're gonna be out there, just go with the flow. And if you're not, keep building up to 30, but you don't need more than 30, generally speaking.
And then for this is mostly an entrepreneurial group. So if you have 2 or 3 co-founders of a company, do they all go onto the about page, or do you recommend different pages for each co-founder?
A different page for each co-founder.
Different page for each. Okay.
The AI much prefers seeing one single entity on a page. There was a leak from Google a couple of years ago where one of the variables, basically they leaked the documentation for the search engineers, and one of them was is reference URL. And is reference URL means that the AI on Google or the knowledge graph is using that URL, that page, as a reference for an entity and explicitly talks about one entity per page.
Okay. And then you mentioned this Google ID. Is that something that people can apply for to get, or is that something that Google assigns to you and you find out about?
It triggers automatically. It's algorithmic. So you can apply for it. But if you build up a clear digital ecosystem, digital footprint, and you have a clear entity home, and you do that infinitely for self-corroboration,
Google will create one. Okay.
It will create one automatically.
Okay.
It might already have created one, and there's a good point. It might have created multiple KGIDs for you.
If you have more than one bio out there.
Yeah, it thinks it's multiple people. So there might be multiple yous out there, at which point you need to merge the knowledge panels together.
Okay. You mentioned that, so do other LLMs use the Google ID, or do they have their own ID that they assign to you?
Well, we don't really know, but WordLift have proven recently that ChatGPT have a knowledge graph within the LLM. It's not as developed as Google's, and it's specifically based for the moment on products. But there's an article on wordlift.io. But because if you're the one who creates the at ID in the schema markup, so focus on that. Google's knowledge graph ID, the KGM ID that Google attributes to you, is actually linked to that, so they become synonymous. So you need to focus on your own at ID because that's the one that the LLMs and Bing will be using, not the Google one. But they will recognize that the Google one is a synonym of the at ID that you identify. The one that I mentioned earlier on, we use Yoast's system. But you can use anything as long as it's that it starts with the entity home, and then you could just put hashtag person or hashtag your name, or you can do the structure that we did using Yoast structure.
Okay. And then I think you answered this already, but if your bio changes, if someone's bio changes, it sounds like you need to go and update all these places where it sits on the web. If you pivot your business, if you change your focus or something like that, or it sounds like maybe try and keep it generic enough that you won't have to update it all that often.
But if it's too generic, the machines won't get a good grip on you, and they won't be very overexcited about recommending you. I would advise you to be specific, self-congratulatory, frame it to your advantage, boast, big yourself up. I mean, I say on mine that I worked with Disney and I worked with ITV Studios. I worked with Samsung.
Yeah.
You've got to push it out there. You've got to tell these machines how wonderful you are because they don't have the imagination to figure it out for themselves. So, and yes, to your question, if you change your bio, you have to go and change it everywhere. And if you say to yourself, well, I'll do it over a period of about 3 months, all you're going to do is confuse the machines. What I advise you to do is compile the list of all the places you need to change it, prepare it, and do it in 1 day, at worst 2 days. Anything more than that, the machine will see a contradictory message across the web. And in your knowledge panel, for example, you are likely to lose the knowledge panel if you do that.
Okay. Good advice. Anyone want to volunteer to be a guinea pig, or I could be the guinea pig in the meantime, Jason, if you want to take me.
Happy to have you as a guinea pig.
I also just Googled Rahul's name. Rahul, if you're paying attention and you want to be, just mention it in the Q&A if you want to be the next person, and I can unmute you.
Yeah, so this is your problem, this American author.
Yeah. He's the teacher who couldn't read, and this is a guy who was on the Oprah Winfrey show a long time ago, was kind of famous. Now he's 88 years old. I guess he's still alive. Hasn't really been active for a lot of years, but his name pops up a lot when you Google his name, my name, our name.
Right. And I mean, we can see here, he's got a Wikipedia page. For a knowledge panel, he's going to be really difficult to beat, if not impossible. So I
do have a Wikipedia page actually too.
In that case, you might be able to beat him if you can build up the Wikipedia page. Yeah, okay.
That's not it though. Yeah, I can give it to you if you want, but yeah.
But you also have this guy who also has a Wikipedia page, so you've got a lot of competition here.
Yeah, I don't know who that person is. There used to be. Yeah, is that the? There was an author who'd written a couple books who used to get good results also.
So if you're fighting against somebody who's got a Wikipedia page, that's always going to be difficult to win. But for example, if you add a middle initial, then you will win. The competition is a lot less problematic.
I see.
In fact, here's I worked with somebody, who we changed the spelling of her name. She's called Mariana, Mariana, and we just changed it to a Y, and she now has a knowledge panel.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So just for online, she just starts using that instead.
Different spelling of a name absolutely worked fine. She
and
didn't
then does that
to
depend
every
on
profile?
So that depends on people. Like if you use a middle initial, then that would depend on your prospects in the future using that, Googling your name with a middle initial in order for your knowledge panel to trigger.
Yeah, we had a client, Mark Preston, very common name.
Yeah.
He just changed it to Mark A. Preston. He said it's stunning. After 3 months, I couldn't imagine myself without the A in my name, and my
Mm.
clients will Google my name with the A in it. You'd
Interesting.
be
Okay.
surprised at how quickly people adapt.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Okay.
So you come up third. This is you, yeah?
Yeah. If you Google John Corcoran wiki, then and it says attorney, third, fourth one down, attorney. That's me, the fourth one down.
All right. Oh
Now,
dear.
I created that
British man
myself.
convicted of murder. That's
I hope that's
but
not me.
this is another problem is namesake online reputation management.
Mm,
If you share the name with somebody who is a British man convicted of murder and Google confuses you or the AI confuses you with him, you can end up with that in your entity in your knowledge panel or
okay.
in your AI resume. So
Yeah.
that's a problem that's going to
I
be
haven't had anyone
absolutely
say to me
huge.
yet, are you a murderer? But there's still time.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, so yeah, from that perspective, if I had a client with a common name like yours, popular, excuse me, I would do that. And I would just go through all of these. Is your middle initial P?
no, it's H.
Okay. Do you ever use that?
Not really. I used to use John H. Corcoran the third because I'm actually the third, and but then I dropped it because I thought it sounded pretentious a number of years ago, so I don't use it anymore.
Right. Because in fact, there's a lot of lawyers, a lot of attorneys called John Corcoran.
Yeah, right, my common thing, I guess.
Whereas,
Yeah.
and that result, the one we had before, this is actually, oh, there's no cyclist as well. Um, so we would actually, what's the name of your company?
Rise 25.
This
We just revamped our about page actually, but it doesn't have a very great section for bio of me and my co-founder. So, but now from what you're saying, it sounds like creating a separate page that's maybe rise25.com/John/Corcoran would be better.
Yeah, I would use this list. So I would add the company name. So this is what we call a qualifier.
Hmm.
So we started with the idea of the attorney aspect as the qualifier that distinguishes you from the other people with the same name.
Hmm.
Turns out that's not good enough, but the company is. Then the question is, do you use the company name in every single one of your profiles? And if not, then you need to find something that you use in every single one of the profiles as the qualifier. And then if we go here, that this obviously, not wishing to criticize, but everybody does this, is they think the about page doesn't really matter. So they don't bother editing the meta title in their Yoast plugin or whatever plugin they're using. It's definitely worth doing.
Mm.
Um, because that page, absolutely, this result here doesn't do this page justice at
Well,
all.
oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, in here I would have /about/John Corcoran.
Oh, okay, okay.
So here I would have a sub page, and another kind of point about putting things right at the root, because it's tempting to think, well, if it's at the root, if I remove the about, that's going to be better, and it's not. It used to be in very old SEO, 15 years ago, um, but the categorization, the fact that it's in an about section, really helps Google and AI understand that this is a section about the company and about, therefore, the people within that company.
Okay.
So organizing your site ontologically with categories and subcategories is an incredibly important part of SEO and now generative engine optimization that I call AI assistive engine optimization.
Yeah.
And
Curtis,
then,
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
it uses LinkedIn an awful lot. Oh,
Mm,
and I'll have to go to a non, what's it called? Is that going to
non-incognito.
be? Oh no, it
Yeah.
does that again. Oh, there you go. You can see it. Well, it uses LinkedIn a lot. All of the AI, Google and Bing use LinkedIn a lot. It belongs to Microsoft. But they all use it. It's incredibly important. So it's well worth spending quite a lot of time updating your LinkedIn profile as a person and as a company. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you
I
off.
think probably adding my middle initial is probably what I would do, John H. Corcoran, and use that and then update that everywhere.
Yeah. And so collect all the URLs first, choose your subtitle, choose your photos, write your description, check it in the NLP analyzer on Kalicube Pro, and then push it all out within 2 days.
Mm. Which is funny because I've kind of spent some time trying to drop the John H. Corcoran. I used to own johnhcorcoran.com, and I really wanted johncorcoran.com. And then I had John H. Corcoran on Twitter was my handle. And then I got them to change it to John Corcoran without the H. Now I'm like going back to it. Funny.
Right.
So Curtis has got a couple questions here, and I can unmute Curtis here so that he can, let's see. Curtis, I'm unmuting you here. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. So Curtis said, wow, very cool. Your tool found my knowledge panel. Lots of old photos and content there. If I now go and start updating the photos on the various sites, how long does it take Google to update this?
Oh, great question. Generally speaking, you can, if you look at the timeline for search results is between, a day and a couple of weeks. Timeline for knowledge panel changes is a month to 3 months. And the timeline for LLM training data to be updated is 9 months to a year. So if you're trying to make a change for knowledge panel, you would wait at least a month, probably 3 months, possibly 6 months. And if something changes before that month is out, it was going to change anyway, and you didn't actually do anything.
Okay. Good.
And Curtis, you had a second question as well, which was kind of long. Do you want to kind of summarize that second question?
So there is one additional thing about the photo that I think is important to say, is Google and the AI look at groups of photos. So they try and identify photos that are almost the same or are very, very similar. And they pick the dominant photo of that group. So you need one dominant photo in a group of photos and one group of photos to be the dominant group of photos. So it's really good, once again, to be consistent. Use the same 2 or 3 photos everywhere.
I noticed that with you. You've got your red shirt on most of your photos here. That's intentional, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, no, interesting. Thanks. That's appreciated. Yeah, I've changed a lot. I've lost a lot of weight, and I lost all my hair, so I shave my head now. So I look like a completely different person than the knowledge base would propose there. The other question I have is, so now that I have this knowledge base link, I was able to hit the get verify or sorry, what is it? Take control of this or
claim.
What is it?
You claim your knowledge panel.
Claim it. That's the word. Yes. Claim it. Sorry. So I started that process, but the issue that I have is, so I have, like at my company, we have a Microsoft Exchange online. So we all have Microsoft emails. So it's cpriest@pixelcarve.com is the email address. Now I also have a Google account using that email address. It's not a Gmail. It's just a Google account that I happen to use that email address. My personal domain, which is curtispriest.com, that domain is on, that email, ask@curtispriest.com, is a Google Workspace account. So I use both services, but I can't use that email for a lot of stuff with Google. Ironically, it doesn't let me set it up with Google Home. It doesn't work properly using YouTube paid accounts. Like there's a bunch of weird gotchas that the Google Workspace email account has. So which of these email accounts should I use to claim? Like, should I because it's obviously also a Google account. Which one should I use to set it up to claim this account with? This
well, if you can use the Google one.
Okay, so that was what I would prefer to do, but I just wasn't sure if it was going to have one of those weird gotchas that Google likes to do.
As far as I know, no, but I'm always happy to, or not happy in this case, to learn something new. How's it asking you to claim it? Is it asking you to claim it through the domain?
Well, so you sent, or that tool that you have there, the one that lets me search my name. So I searched my name, and it gave a whole bunch of possible knowledge panels, of which the top one was like was a real looking knowledge panel. It was me, and it was all the pictures, and it was, what you'd expected to see.
Cool.
So I clicked the three little dots and I clicked claim it. And then the first step it wants to do is verify me. So it wants me to log into, whatever Google account I want to use for this, which I'm going to use the ask@curtispriest.com account. And I'm just going to go through that process. But before I started that process and claimed it with that account, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't going to run into any gotchas like
Right.
I've run into with YouTube and with Google Home.
Yeah, well, I mean, the best way to claim it is when Google says, I've recognized that it's this domain name
Mhm.
that is linked to the knowledge panel. If
Gotcha,
you have
okay.
Search Console control, then you can claim it.
Great. Yeah, okay.
And that's
That
the best
makes
way
sense.
to do it by a long chalk.
Perfect. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you, Curtis. And Curtis has some great photos on his website. So well done on that. Looks very slick looking website. Anyone else want to go? Marie or Vipul or Yomesh, if you guys want to go. If not, we will wrap up there. Jason, anything else that you wanted to add or any other thoughts you want to share?
No, well, I mean, I've been tracking and working on knowledge panels since 2015. And I spent
Wow.
10 years just collecting data. And Kalicube Pro is basically all of my experience and knowledge backed by data. I built the algorithms to create the platform that you just saw that actually just walks my team through the process that I've just explained to you. And it makes it all automatic in the background
So where can
and
people go to
prioritizes the work.
learn more about Kalicube Pro and learn more about you? Google your
Well,
name.
if you go to kalicube.com, kalicube.com, we've got a lot of learning resources. We give everything away for free. So everything I've just explained now and the downloadable booklet guide, they're all free. My assumption is that a lot of people want to do this themselves. The people who are time poor and cash rich and want to get the weight off their shoulders will come to us and they'll pay my team to do it because we'll do it more quickly, we'll do it better, and we'll take the weight off their shoulders and the worry out of their mind. And as entrepreneurs, we all know our time is the most important thing we have, the most valuable thing we have. And our headspace is phenomenally important. And having that time to sit back and be able to actually think about stuff is super important.
Yeah.
But, if you get your team to do it, they download the free guide, they can do it themselves, absolutely no problem.
Yeah, it's crazy. I create a ton of content, have for years. And for many years, I just thought that was the antidote. That was the recipe, is to put a lot of content out on the internet. But what I've realized these last 3 to 4 months that I've been really doing a deep dive into these sorts of things is that a lot of that's not enough. Like you need to think like the machine. You need to provide the information to the machine in the way that the machine wants to consume it. And if you don't take the time to set these up properly, then you're going to be disappointed with the results. Someone's going to Google your name, they're not going to be able to find you, or they're going to find some murderer. So,
And yeah, I mean, and that's a really good point, is more isn't better, more consistent is better, more clear is better. And I'll just leave you with this, is that we use a process which we call claim, frame, and prove. Make a claim. I'm the world's leading expert in online reputation management in the AI era. I frame that in a way that makes sense to me, that therefore you should come to me if you have a problem, if you're being confused with a murderer. And then I need to prove it. So I need to link out to third parties who are reliable and relevant, who corroborate what it is I'm saying. But I'll give you really quickly an example of how logical these machines are. With the claim, frame, and prove, I said, I'm the Brand SERP Guy and the world expert in search engine results pages for brand names. I'm the world's leading expert in knowledge panels. Online reputation management is essentially the search result or the quality of the search result or improving the search result of brand name searches, which is a brand SERP plus a knowledge panel. Therefore, framing, I'm a world expert in online reputation management. And within 3 months, all of the machines will say, world leading expert in online reputation management in AI, Jason Barnard. And that was something I hadn't talked about before. So I claimed and I framed those claims in a way that made sense to the machines, and they just followed. They're happy to follow you if You can frame information in a way that is logical and makes sense to them, and you can prove it. And that's the important part, proof. And some of the proof, I just ask friends to put it on their website.
That's great. Well, Jason, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for being here, and this was a lot of fun, and I learned a ton. So we'll send the recording out to everyone, and hope everyone has a good rest of their week. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.